Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to show you how to make 3 sizes of these. I'm going to call them 3D frame trifold cards because it's a trifold because it's got the 3, but you've also got like that little 3D frame there, which is almost like shadow box in appearance. It's kind of like a tri-shutter card, but not quite. So it's just something a little bit different. I've put a little bee there on some invisible thread, so it looks really cute, and you know, you can make it spin before you pop it in the card and things like that. And the good thing about it is where you've got these stick out frames, you can have things that hang across here like bunting. I've put flowers behind it, so you've got flowers popping up. So lots of different ways to use it. That side I've put somewhere where I can write my message. And I just think it's really, really pretty, isn't it? So I'm going to do this one in an A6 and an A2. And then this one is A4, but you can also use your 8.5 by 11. So really, really cool to do. Not difficult to do either. Really simple, but lots of dimension. Now, the really cool thing about this, if I lay this flat, you'll see that that is one whole sheet of A4 card, which is hunky-dory card, which has got a print on it. I've used 2 toppers and a little ribbon and flower. Now, I do have a tutorial for that ribbon, and I will link it in my description below. But really easy to do, and don't worry about your toppers overhanging this part, because when it closes you lose an inch there. So as long as it doesn't overhang that, then you'll be fine. So when you've made your folds, pop your toppers in, or even measure it beforehand. You don't want it to be any more than about 3.5 inches wide, your topper, and you can adjust the height. So I've done a 1.5 inch border at the top here. You want to keep this one, but I've done 1.5 at the top, just to make it not look lost in there. So you can bring this down further and you can make them uneven. You can have 1 inch at the bottom, 2 inches at the top. That's not really going to matter, and that will become very clear when I start. So it's a really nice dimensional card, which would fold flat if you didn't put dimension on it. You can see there, if I fold it, all these pieces here at the top would be flat, the ribbon's sticking out, and also I've put foam pads underneath my sentiment at the bottom, but you could keep it nice and flat for postage if you wanted. So let's get started on these then, and thanks everyone to who has subscribed, watched and liked my channel. I really do appreciate it. I think I've got 2 here, so oh look, I've got a dirty mark on it now. Turn it over, no one will know except you. So we've got A2, which is going to be made for like the US letter size card. Just cut that down. You can also cut down your A4s, you can cut down your 12 by 12s, etc. And this is the 6 by 4, which is UK. So I'll just give you the measurements of the card I've used. So this is A4 card cut down 6 inches in height, and this is 8.5 by 11 cut down 5.5 inches in height. So we've got 5.5 by 11, 6 by the length of A4, which is 11.75 inches. So we'll start with the 6 by 4, I think, first. And you're going to have a little, I'm going to show you in a minute that you have a little bit of overlap at the back, but it really doesn't matter. So the first thing you need to do is take a paper trimmer or mark with a pencil, etc. And I like to do the 1 inch borders on the smaller cards, because otherwise you won't have anywhere to put anything inside. And you're going to score from, cut from 1 inch to 5, and you'll come in 1 inch in. So 1 inch in here, 1 inch border, and cut 1 to 5. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. So 1 inch border and cut from 1 to 5. Just take my slider back up to 1 and cut it down to 5, and that's all the cuts you need to do. In fact, while we're here, I'll do the A2 as well, so we don't have to go back to it in a minute when I come to folding that one. So again, we're going to do exactly the same measurements. 1 to 5. It's just the scores that are different. And on here, 1 inch border, 1 inch down from the end, and down to 5. So that's the A2 for in a minute. Now I can move this out of the way. I will need it again when I do the A4. I'm going to show you how to do it with a full sheet of A4 as well. So now what you need to do are your scores. So where's my clear ruler gone? No idea. That's the trouble with craft rooms, isn't it? So let me just get my scoreboard so you can see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to score from between the cut lines. So I'm going to score between the cut lines at 1 inch, and then again at 5 inches. So that's your 2 scores. You know where they start and where they finish because you've got a cut line there. So just 1 and 5. There's another one to do at 2, and the best thing to do is just line up a ruler just in front of that groove, and then you'll know you're in the right groove because you're only going between the lines. If you guide yourself down, which I do all the time, but if you've got light cardstock and you guide yourself down, you could put a dent in there and it will try to fold. It will want to fold there. So it's best to avoid that if possible. So with the A4, so A4 in length, 11 3/4 by 6 high, and it's going to make a 6 by 4 inch card. You need to score it 7 7/8. Okay, so just score there 7 7/8. If you've got a really thick cardstock, which I'll show you on the A4, I would flip it over and redo all these scores. You can see where they are, so you can just go ahead and do all of them on the back as well. So I'm just going to move that for a second. We'll pull it back in a bit, and then we just need to reinforce all these score lines. So with this one, it becomes, oh, dirty mark, a valley. So this one comes up, okay, and then this one, oh sorry, there's one more score. Ah, terrible, shocking. 4 inches just from the outside there to the cut line. Okay, so you've got 1 and 2 and 5 between the cut lines, 4 outside the cut lines, and 7 7/8 all the way down. Sorry about that. And then what you need to do with these ones, this one's going to be a mountain, and so is this. So this is what I mean. If you accidentally, like if I'd guided that there through the scoreboard, that would be definitely bending now, because it wants to bend there where the other majority of the card is. This one becomes another mountain up the end here, and then a valley. Okay, so we've got mountain, valley, mountain, valley. Okay, and then just mountain, valley. So they are in order: mountain, valley, mountain, valley, mountain, valley. So it's one way of remembering it. Then what I like to do is I turn them over, because I always find it's easier to pull the card in like this and then push that down. And don't try and force that one, because can you see that they're bowing? As I pull that down, it's bowing. It wants to bend with it. So I just like to get that going and then grab that last one and pull it all in, and then give it a reinforcement. Now, if you were to use 12 by 12 inch card, this wouldn't happen, and you'd be scoring it at 8, not 7 7/8. But because we all use A4 and 8.5 by 11, I thought I'd demonstrate with that. But if you did want to use 12 inch by 6 inch, that's absolutely fine, and you wouldn't end up with this little overlap. Just don't score it 7 7/8, score it at 8. And it's fine, like it gives you something. You're just going to open it like that, so it's not really a problem, is it? I don't think it is, but if you're worried about that, then for you, you're going to need 12 inch card and score it at 8, not 7 7/8 there. But that's it, and then it's just down to decorating. So like I say, you've got that area there, and this does slide right in. So it's 3 inches, well, it's just under because of score lines. But you can actually go, you know, right over to this edge. But because you've got that 1 inch border all the way around, and that's why I do it 7 7/8 to make these meet. Otherwise, I think it looks odd. Then you can make your top, let your topper come out. Now you can use ovals, you can use a quirky shape. You know, it doesn't really matter. So that's your 6 by 4 inch card. Now we're going to go on to the A2. So we already did our cuts on the A2 just now. So what I'm going to do, and A2 is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So what we're going to do now is very similar scores in this area, but it just changes here. So we're going to do 1 between the lines, and we're going to do 2 between the lines, and I'm going to be naughty and guide myself. Don't do as I do. And 5 there. Then we need to do that 4 that I forgot last time, outside of the cut lines. So from the edge of the card to the cut line at 4, 1 2 and 5 on the inside between the lines, exactly the same as the other card, but the difference is here we're going to score it 7 1/2. Now this is 11 inch cardstock, okay, so this is the US letter size. So 11 inch cardstock cut down to 5 1/2 inches in height, and then we will do this one. Incidentally, if you wanted to do the tall slim card that I'm going to do on the A4 in a minute, with the 8.5 by 11, that's the measurement you're going to use, is 7.5, and you'll just keep the length. But we'll go through that a bit more in a moment. So again, we're just going to make these folds. So this one comes in, so we've got valley, and remember they all go in order. So valley, and then the next ones along are going to be mountains. So that one, and that one are mountains, and like I say, don't reinforce that anymore. And then we go mountain here at the end, because that one's a valley. Turn it over, pull this card in, and when it starts to come, grab the top part. So pull that down, grab the top part, and give it a squash. Now what you'll notice about the 11-inch card is there's a big gap here, because it's more important to me to get this front in lines, because this is how they're going to come out the envelope, and I think it's important that that's measured right, and I would prefer to lose it there. If you wanted to add a piece of card to the back to overhang to not show that, you could, but when it's open you will see that card jutting out there. So to be honest with you, I really wouldn't worry, but if it does bother you, then you can do it. So there you go, there's your A2. So this is 4 inches, not 4 1/4. So it's 4 by 5.5, but that allows you to have little things overhanging it. So that's that one. And now we're going to move on to our larger cardstock. So I'm using A4. Now what you can do with A4 is you've got some choices with your borders. Now you need to stick to 1 inch on this side, okay? You don't want it to be any wider than 1 inch. Just spin this around. So you want that border to be 1 inch there. So you want to start your cut at 1 inch like we did on all the others. Okay, so we're going to start at 1 inch. But you've got options here on the depth. So you don't have to be 1 inch. Now I'm going to use this topper on here. So I'm just going to, I'll measure it with the ruler. It'd be easier, wouldn't it? So it's just under 5 inches. So 8 1/4 or 8.5 if you're using, you know, US letter. Then, you know, a 1.5 times 2 is 3 inches. So that gives me a whole, you know, little 1/4 inch here and there, and it won't be lost within the frame. So I think 1.5 is a nice one. If you've got a topper bigger, let's say your topper is 6 inches, and just go for 1. Yeah, so you've got your 2 inches at the end that you can use. So what we need to do with this one is exactly the same. So it's 1.5 inches in. So the only difference on this is the depth of your frame that you want to choose, and that, like I said, that really is up to you. You could have a taller one and a shorter one. So same cuts, 1 to 5, and at the bottom I'm going to do 1.5 in as well, and I could adjust it if I wanted. Doesn't matter that it's different sizes. And then I'm going to go, I think my Aussie accent came out a bit then, mate. G'day. That's a really bad accent. I lived in Australia for 8 years, and I did speak with quite a good Australian accent. But I've been back in the UK since 2009, and it's 2022, so I'm definitely English again. Well, that was actually quite funny. So we're going to do the same thing again. So at 1 inch, which is the cut line. In fact, if I turn it over, because there's probably quite a lot of flash on that card with the so cut line's always going to tell, whoops, gone a bit wonky there. I will use my ruler, use it that way. So just line up to the one and the one there, and just get into that groove, oh my word, and just go 1 like that, and then again for 2, which I'm definitely going to use my ruler. So about to shine on my ruler there. Get into the groove, and then you can move the ruler, because you're just going between cut lines. And then the end one is obviously the end of the cut line, but just to get me going I will use the ruler, and just into the groove. Going off today. I think it's the back of the card is a bit weird. I'm going to turn it over. I've got to reinforce these anyway, because this cardstock is very, very heavyweight. So I would suggest that you definitely double score this. And you also need to do that score at 4 and here at 4. Now if you're using 8.5 by 11, this is where you're going to score at 7.5. But this is A4, so I'm going to score at 7 7/8. And I will flip that and do it again on the back. It definitely is harder to score on the back of that card. It wanders off a little. There we go. So now we make our folds in exactly the same way. So this one comes in, and always make sure your edge is lined up. Give it a good old flatten, burnish, like this. The next one is going to be mountains. So this is going to be a mountain, and this one is also a mountain. It's quite a hard cardstock to manoeuvre without getting those. So I'm just going to gently get that one going. Put my fingers underneath this one to get the valley going, and then the final mountain, like that. I'll turn it over and you'll probably see better. So we've got to pull these in, like I said before, and then pull that down, okay? And we've got a little slim edge on the back. Now if you're doing 8.5 by 11 and you just scored that at 7.5, it'll be as wide as what it was on the A2. And then you can just now reinforce all of these score lines. There's one underneath there as well. And it will be a bit springy, so what you can do is weight that down, put it under a book or something just for a little while, and it will reinforce its own score lines. But it's very springy weighted cardstock. So then you can see that I'm using an oval topper, and it overhangs here, but it's absolutely fine. And when it's closed, it'll look like that. And then I think what I might do, obviously when I finish, is I might tie some string on this one and do like a fancy sailing knot at the top there, maybe on this side as well. And I've got a little topper here that I like to put in the centre, and you can move this over if you want to. Like, it doesn't matter, it can come, because there isn't a pattern there. I might have that right over there actually, and you can see you can just align it to where you're happy. And then I'll put that one, this is a retirement card. On the retirement, go fishing by the lighthouse. Okay guys, so do you want me to stick that down so you can see? I might as well, hadn't I? Let me just get some tape and then we're done. So have a go at these. Just going to put a little bit of tape on here, and I mean little. I'll use some glue in a bit. I'll use them now because I can't find my pokey tool. Sure, I used it just now. Oh, as I get older I lose more and more. So just pop that into where you're comfortable with it sitting and you're happy that it looks okay. A bit more, I think. Just lining it up with that bottom sentiment. Drop it down. There you can see. How easy is that? A couple of toppers and one piece of cardstock. Amazing. Okay guys, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you. Bye.